I don't think there is any denying that TikTok is a bit of a cursed place. You've got Jeremy Fragrance doing dances in weirdly tight white pants. You've got the Cologne boy wearing $500 niche colognes to his high school.
I'm getting ready for school, so let's put on a fragrance.
And then you've got this super weird guy called FB Fragrances gatekeeping his SpongeBob cologne. I think I just picked up the greatest cologne of all time. Like, that guy is such a weirdo. With that being said, I have been creating content on TikTok religiously every single day for about the past year now, and I've been rotting my brain consuming this fragrance content on TikTok for about the past 3 years. It's tough to say that. I've really just been, my poor brain cells have just been rotting away. But with that being said, from my experience, from all the content I've viewed, from the content I've created, seeing the trends go up, seeing the trends go down, these are the 7 fragrances that at their peak got the most amount of hype on TikTok. They might not be hyped anymore, but the ones I'm talking about at some point just had a crazy spike in popularity. A lot of these are gonna be clone fragrances, and the reason for that is because the primary audience of TikTok videos are gonna be on the younger side. What do younger people not have? Money. What do younger people want? They want fragrances now. So that's why they usually go for the clone fragrances, and that's why they always spike in popularity. But I am gonna try and include some hyped up niche fragrances that were on TikTok as well, include some designers. I'm just gonna make it a nice mix of everything. Let's get into it. Let me just start by saying that I believe that this fragrance honestly did deserve the hype. These newer batches, unfortunately, there was no official reformulation, but these new ones are so weak, and it makes me cry every time I use it. The old ones were absolutely nuclear. You're essentially getting a fantastic price value proposition with this fragrance. This one, $50 US, super cheap. Even here in Australia, it's less than $100. You're getting essentially the original Invictus DNA. It is technically inspired. Okay, it's confusing because people say it's a clone of Invictus Aqua 2016, but this actually came out in 2015. So you see how those two things just aren't really adding up. I've never smelt the Invictus Aqua. It was discontinued. I wasn't into fragrances when it came out. But to me, this smells like a much better, fruitier version of the OG Invictus. I'm not a huge Invictus guy, but I love this fragrance. It's sweet, it's fruity, it's fresh, it's a huge compliment puller, extremely mass appealing. And I think one of the main reasons it blew up is because of how cheap it is, but the performance for a fresh fragrance is absolutely out of this world. At its prime, we'll get to that, but at its prime, you're basically getting 10 to 12 hours longevity with strong projection. And again, you're getting a fruity, plum, salty, oceanic fragrance, and it's just that strong. Like, there's no wonder it was so popular, honestly. Like I said though, the newer batches, the performance is a lot weaker. I get 6 hours longevity with soft to moderate projection. And because of all the hype that TikTok has given this brand, has given this fragrance,
this is the best summer cologne you can get.
The prices just continue to soar upwards despite the hype now starting to go back down. In my opinion, if you're gonna look at getting Rasasi Hawas, get this new one called Rasasi Hawas Ice. They are very similar. However, this one is stronger, it's mintier, it's more aquatic. To me, it just smells like a more mature, classy version of Rasasi Hawas. It's a little bit more fruity. I much prefer it. They're both fantastic, but I think now Rasasi Hawas Ice is definitely an upgrade, and I do recommend it. It's a really nice fragrance. Oh, that is so good. Yeah, that's good. Up next, it's hard because this isn't even a fragrance. It's the entire Paul Gaultier line. It's just the entire brand. If you mention the word Paul Gaultier in a TikTok videos, the average amount of views just increases by at least 100%.
This is the complete Paul Gaultier buying guide.
Paul Gaultier as a brand is the reason my account blew up, to be honest with you. But if we're only going to talk about one, it has to be the new Paradise Gardens. To prove to you guys how hyped up this fragrance is, there is literally an account out there. I'm not sure if the editor watching this video can find it. I'm pretty sure it's just called Paul Gaultier Paradise Gardens, and he has thousands of followers just posting videos on this singular fragrance.
Bottle, oh, so beautiful. But how does it smell? It smells really good.
And that is not a joke. Like, it's hard to believe that a fragrance could be that hyped. You can create a following based on one fragrance. but that's the type of impact that Paradise Gardens has on the fragrance community right now. It's ridiculous. This one for me actually arrived yesterday, and I just have to say the bottle is absolutely beautiful. The smell is honestly fantastic too. Because of all the hype, I made sure I kept my expectations low because I knew I was going to be disappointed, but it actually smelled really, really nice. To me, it is very similar to the original Le Beau. The only main difference is that you get more of like a minty freshness. It's more airy. I would say it's less dense, less rich, and I think the coconut is done a lot better. It's less heavy, because that's the one thing I didn't like about Le Beau. I just felt like the coconut was just too much, too sweet. This one is just more refreshing, really good for a hot summer's day. Performance, however, is super disappointing on my skin. I get 5 to 6 hours longevity, and then projection is quite soft. For me, this is a perfect gym dumb reach fragrance, but it's not much more. For like a summer party, I'm still taking something like Le Beau Le Parfum because of that sweetness. It's good, it just didn't blow me away. I would give this an 8.5 out of 10. It is pretty cool, it's pretty funny seeing how much hype these fragrances get because of the cool bottle, the marketing, I get it. But look, don't fall for the hype and just buy it. It's not gonna blow you away most likely. And I think in terms of designer summer fragrances go, most people would probably prefer something like Weiss or EDP, at least from my experience, that's just what I think. Good fragrance. I like seeing how much hype it gets. There's a lot of great Paul Gaultier memes out there on TikTok, but it's not, you know, the best thing since sliced bread. Up next is more of another category rather than a specific fragrance itself, and that is going to be the Creed Aventus DNA. Again, this kind of trend has started to go down a bit. I think everyone, is myself included, is getting a little bit bored of the Creed Aventus DNA. It's great, but it's just everywhere right now, and mostly because of these two fragrances here, Montblanc Explorer and Club de Nuit Intense Man. In terms of TikTok hype, Club de Nuit Intense Man definitely went the most crazy, and I still really like it. Fun fact, this is actually my most complimented fragrance of all time. More compliments than all of these combined, believe it or not. I've probably gone 7 or 8 compliments with this fragrance, and I wear it like once a week only. It's pretty impressive. Citrusy, leather, smoky. It is really nice. It's mature, it's classy. The opening on Club de Nuit Intense Man EDT is very harsh. It's kind of lemony. It reminds me of a lemon cleaner, essentially. So yeah, it's not great, but give it 20 minutes and it dries down, from my experience, to about 85 to 90% similar to Creed Aventus in the air. I've worn this and people think I'm wearing Creed Aventus. Like, they are very, very close. And the price on this thing is fantastic, $30 or $40. You get a fragrance that smells like a $400 fragrance. How could you go wrong with that? As you guys are probably noticing, it's a trend. Like, the fragrances that are affordable but punch above their price tend to blow up on TikTok. So if you ever want to try guess what the next hyped up fragrance is going to be on TikTok, look at the price and then look at if it smells like something more expensive than it. Tick that box, and then look at if it also performs well. You tick those 2 boxes and you probably have your next viral TikTok fragrance. Montblanc Explorer, another kind of Creed Aventus DNA. It's similar to Club de Nuit Intense Man. The dry down, I can't really tell much of a difference between them. I've heard people say this smells like a little bit more woody and less smoky than Club de Nuit Intense Man. Maybe my nose isn't sophisticated enough, but I can't pull that apart. The opening though is just much smoother, which kind of begs the question, why wouldn't you just get this then if you get the smooth opening? It doesn't perform as well. Longevity is reduced. Projection is greatly reduced. Club de Nuit Intense Man, crazy projection. And it's also, this one is a little bit more expensive too. If you want a smooth, kind of more office type scent, get Montblanc Explorer. If you want kind of more bold, more confident, maybe you want to use it for going out, get Club de Nuit Intense Man. Both these fragrances though, 100% deserve the hype in my opinion. And I hyped them up on my TikTok. I've got no shame. I think they're fantastic. Let's move on to the 4th most hyped up TikTok fragrance, and I'm gonna introduce a niche fragrance here. None of the niches are as hyped up as the other ones I've talked about, but this, for a niche fragrance, this is all over. This is still so hyped up.
This is the best green fragrance in my collection, designed for that confident, classy gentleman who has great style.
Parfums de Marly, Greenley. This is in my top 5 favorite summer fragrances of all time because the opening is just the most juicy, most beautiful thing I've still ever smelled to this day. You get the green apple, it's like sparkly, it just hits you, and then you get the oak moss in the base, which comes through on the dry down. It is such a beautiful summer fragrance. A lot of people are gonna tell you that, you know, you're paying a lot of money for something that maybe doesn't smell super unique, super complex. I see where they're coming from, but I just completely disagree, to be honest. I think one of the main reasons that Greenley is getting so much hype on TikTok is because it's kind of the fresher alternative to Parfums de Marly's most popular fragrance, which is Layton. And it turns out a lot of the younger people that are on TikTok think Layton's overrated.
A lot of people think that this cologne is overrated.
And I mean, it's a lot less mass appealing in my opinion than Greenley. I think Greenley with the apple note, it's just a lot fresher. It kind of makes sense that the young people on TikTok are gonna gravitate more towards something like Greenley rather than Layton. I think they're both honestly 10 out of 10 masterpieces. I have my baby Layton right here. Absolutely awesome fragrance for the winter. But like for me, it was no surprise when this thing blew up. Performance on it is solid. You're gonna get moderate projection, about 8 hours longevity. I've heard some people claim they get terrible longevity. I've never had an issue with this. Parfums de Marly Sedley as well is like a fantastic minty, Sprite, fresh fragrance, but for some reason it just never really got the traction on TikTok. It's hard to know why though. Like you can look at the criteria for what could get a fragrance hyped up on TikTok, but it's just really hard to honestly know at the end of the day. It never quite got the hype that Greenley got, but this deserves all of it and more. I love Greenley. At least go get your nose on it for that beautiful green apple opening. Up next, we have a fragrance that it just got so much hype that I have to talk about it, but I'm just gonna touch on it because you guys are probably sick of Jeremy Fragrance talking about it by now for like years. And that is Nautica Voyage.
It's just $20, $30 on Amazon. It's so good.
I've always described this stuff as smelling like a salty cucumber. I'm not sure if you've heard of it being described that before, but put your nose to it and everyone that I've told, you know, smell it and, you know, does it smell like a salty cucumber? They all go, now that you say it, it kind of does. It's kind of got that salty, super aquatic vibe, but it is just so synthetic. It kind of just smells like chemical warfare in a bottle, to be honest with you. Performance, really bad. Price, really good. But the smell, it just smells so cheap. It's so headache inducing. The only time I would recommend this is if you are so broke, you can't even spend $30. Your budget is $20 flat. Then get Nautica Voyage. Also, if you just want a super cheap toss in your gym duffel bag fragrance, Nautica Voyage, you know, for the gym, you can't really go wrong because it's so refreshing. It just smells cheap though. Montblanc Legend Spirit is a great, slightly more expensive alternative. It's a little bit sweeter. It's much more natural smelling. It gets more compliments. I'm a huge advocate for Montblanc Legend Spirit if you can afford an extra $10 or $15 in your budget. Up next is a category that I love talking about, and that is gonna be Killian's Angel Share dupes. These ones are popping right now, and I got two of the biggest and baddest, and that is gonna be Kismet's Angel and Latafa Kamra. You must have heard, unless you're living under a rock, you've got to have heard of at least one of these. Let's start with Kismet's Angel, which is gonna be the most accurate. This one to me smells about 90% similar. It's super boozy. You get a super gourmand fragrance with good performance. It's dirt cheap. The presentation is beautiful. Honestly, after I bought this, I was considering getting the real Angel Share, but after I bought this is my second bottle by the way, it is so good that I just decided I didn't actually need Angel Share. I'll just be a cologne connoisseur and just stick with this. And the final hyped up fragrance on TikTok is one that is getting hype right now. A lot of the ones I've been talking about, you know, their time has come, their peak has passed, but this one is on the come up right now, and that is Mercedes-Benz Club Black. This is a beautiful amber vanilla fragrance. To my nose, it literally smells like a fluffy vanilla latte from Starbucks, my favorite drink from Starbucks, and that is why I love this fragrance so much. It is so cheap. It is 50 Aussie dollars, which probably means in the US it is like 30 bucks, which is crazy for what you're getting. The reason as well it's getting a lot of hype is because it smells very similar to a expensive fragrance from Parfums de Marly called Althaïr, which is one of their new releases. It's another very heavy vanilla wintertime scent. This one shares a lot of similarities to it, and the performance is not bad as well. So you're essentially getting a budget version of a fantastic niche fragrance. Mercedes-Benz Club Black, definitely check it out. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. That is gonna do it for this video. I'm gonna wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed the video on the most hyped up TikTok fragrances. I also hope you enjoy my second video on Omar's School of Scent channel. If you wanna go check out the first video I did, it was posted like 3 or 4 videos ago now. That was an introductory video talking about my 5 fragrances for life. This one, I want to get more involved in the TikTok side of things because that's kind of like my origins. That's the FB fragrances lore. If you guys want to check out my channel, go down to the description below. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Let me know if you've tried any of the fragrances I talked about in this video. Let me know if you think they deserve the hype. Let me know what you think of the TikTok fragrance world. I know it's a bit interesting. It's a lot more sane here on YouTube. You know, I think I do prefer it, but don't tell my TikTok fans that. Have a good rest of your day, guys. I'll catch you next time.